Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We are back with another video of Exchange Server. In this video tutorial, we are going to install Exchange Server 2010 Service Pack 3, and the setup will be like there will be a single domain controller with the name DC. It will have an Exchange Server box, a member server joined to this domain. Name will be Exchange 10, and a client machine which will be for testing purposes. This environment will be completely 2008 R2 based environment, and the domain also the forest functional level will be 2008 R2. Let's move on and see what all things are we going to perform before we install the Exchange server. So it includes, first of all, assign a static IP to the Exchange server. This is a requirement for Exchange server. We cannot go with a dynamic IP address to the Exchange server. We'll join the Exchange server box to a domain. Obviously, it has to be joined to a domain. Then we'll install Microsoft Office Filter Pack on Exchange server box, and then finally we will install the Windows component which are required for Exchange setup or installation. Installation will consist extracting the setup files, installing Exchange server using a command line interface, and then we'll do a reboot once the Exchange is installed on server. So without further ado, let's go to the Exchange server or the servers and prepare the installation and start with it. We have a domain controller over here which has already been promoted. As we discussed, it will be 2008 R2 domain and forest functional level. It has 2008 R2. We have Exchange server and a client machine joined to domain. First of all, let's verify if we have a static IP address to the assigned to the Exchange server. To check that, let's go to here and type in let's go to the network properties and check for the IP address. We do have a static IP address assigned. That was our first requirement. It has a gateway, it has a domain controller DNS server assigned to it. Now let's verify if the machine has been joined to domain. It has to be a member server. So yes, the Exchange server box is joined to the domain we will be installing this Exchange on. So now let's go ahead and start with the prerequisite installation. The Office Filter Pack also has a service pack, so we have also installed that. Now we will go ahead and enable all the Windows component that the Exchange server requires for the installation. In order to enable Windows component, we have this PowerShell and we can get it from internet easily. So you just need to copy everything from the notepad and run PowerShell as an administrator and just copy the content. Before copying the content of the notepad file or the uh, text from the prerequisites to enable Windows component, we have to import the server manager module to the PowerShell so that it comes to know like it has the ability to enable all these components. Now let's enable these features or component that Exchange requires. Once this completes, we'll take a reboot of a server and then proceed with the installation of Exchange. Server will now be rebooted. Let's wait for it to come back online. In the meantime, we are waiting for the Exchange server to be rebooted. Uh, let's have a look into the configuration partition of Active Directory and see what will be an expected change or some addition once the Exchange server is installed in our domain or infrastructure. We are now going to connect the Active Directory configuration partition using ADSI edit, where all the configuration related to Exchange server will be stored once the Exchange server is installed. The location would be configuration partition, services. Over here, we don't see anything related to Exchange server right now. Once the Exchange server is installed, there will be certain container created over here, which we'll have a look into later on once the Exchange setup is completed. Now let's move back to the Exchange server. Exchange server has come back online. Let's log into that and let's proceed with the installation. So I have already extracted the setup in C drive and a directory called exch. Under that, I have a folder in which I have extracted the setup already. In your case, you might want to first extract the actual setup file and then start the installation. So for installation, we'll fire up a command prompt in elevated mode, that is run as administrator. Navigate the working directory to where we have the setup extracted. And while doing the setup, we don't have to worry about prepare domain, prepare AD, prepare schema, because when we run the setup, The setup itself does all these three things. We don't have to worry about them. So let's get started with the setup. For initiating the setup, we need to run this command setup.com/m. M stands for more, which will be install. Then /r, it will be for roles. What are the roles we want to install? So mailbox, CAS, hub, all three roles we will be installing on this server. And a very important switch that we give while running the setup in unattended mode is that the organization name. On every first Exchange server in the organization, it will be a mandatory switch. Without this, the setup will not proceed. So I'll name it anything. We can name it anything basically. So I will name it on my domain name itself. As we discussed, the Exchange setup will now configure. Setup will do prepare schema, prepare ID, prepare domain. All these three steps will be done in this status while it is organization, like it is on organization preparation. So that's one information while we are going through the setup. In prerequisite check, we will see this warning, which is there is no Exchange 2007 server has been detected. That is obvious that we will receive, so we can ignore it. That does not harm anything. The other warning is about this KB. So this is for when we deploy a database availability group, multiple mailbox servers, we require this hotfix so that like the DAG members have the failover cluster availability or capabilities. We can ignore for now as we are doing a standalone Exchange server setup. We don't require that. I will pause the video until the setup proceeds. Once it is completed, we'll resume the video back. So setup is completed now. Um, it is recommended to have a server reboot post installation once the setup is completed. So we'll reboot this server.